What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Music Biz, a Raised Rowdy podcast. I'm your host, Peyton Heben. This marks episode 21. It's our first virtual, Zoom podcast, not in studio or not any video. So our guest today is a singer-songwriter and touring tech with Travis Tritt, a good friend of mine. Please welcome Dawson Edwards.
What up, dude?
Thanks for coming on, dude.
Dude, thanks for having me on here. This is cool.
Yeah, I'm getting used to all this. You're running the show for my podcast right now.
Yeah, dude. This is like I said, we do ours on here weekly, and it has worked better getting video and stuff out because before it took longer and everything, and here it's like boom, it's all in one package, and we can have video and the audio and everything within kind of like minutes, really. We even had our first yesterday was our first episode fully uploaded to YouTube. So
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm excited about that. But yeah, first
I've
time. No, go ahead.
I've only done a few episodes in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you guys, we talked about your progression a little bit of your releasing for episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm supposed to be releasing every Tuesday, but I ended up being down for like almost a month with my wisdom teeth surgery.
Yeah.
And then Key West happened. So it was like sporadically releasing episodes. It's been tough to keep up.
Yeah, totally. Ours is kind of easy because it's, there's a race pretty much every single week of the year. And we do one pretty much after every race, just Monday mornings, fresh off the press. So it's been fun. It's been a blast. Y'all go check out Raised Rowdy Racing if you like NASCAR.
Another great podcast under the Raised Rowdy umbrella. Well, first off, dude, congrats. You just signed a publishing deal.
Yep.
With Dream 3.
Yep. Dream 3 JV with Kobalt. So, yeah, it's been incredible so far. I signed that. They reached out to me, I guess, in about August, September of last year. And I signed over there in January. So it's been kind of, I was about to say 3 or 4 months, but we're in May. So it's been like 5 months now. It feels like time's just like flying by.
So I want to get into the process of what it's like when you said they reached out to you and the process leading up to the signing. But before we get into all that, can you kind of walk me through from when you moved to Nashville and just the process of you getting into the music scene here in town?
Yeah, dude. So I've been playing music. I picked up a guitar. I think I was like 13 years old. Bought a guitar at a pawn shop, and I started writing. I was writing songs. I mean, kind of like poems, just kind of writing without music, to them. And I got to a point where I wanted to put some music to them. And I always knew, like, I wanted to go to Nashville. I was always obsessed, with looking at the back of CDs and looking at, songwriters' names and all of that stuff. And, I hear a lot of people that, like, say they moved to towns, like, didn't know what a pub deal was or didn't know you could make a living writing songs, stuff like that. And that wasn't the case for me because every night in my bedroom, I was just like looking up, trying to get as much information, that I needed to know about how to make it, quote unquote, in the music business. And I moved right after high school. I did not know anybody. I mean, I did the whole, move, didn't know anybody thing. Lived over in Donaldson for my first like few months of town and got an apartment over in Bellevue. And I met a guy. So I can give you the whole run. This is a long story, but I'll try to make it quick. So I'm sure you know who Ben Hayslip is.
Absolutely.
Massive hit songwriter. So I posted a song, and this was in 2015, the year I moved to Nashville. And a lot of people get this confused and think that I knew Ben Hayslip before I moved to Nashville or stuff like that. I didn't know anybody. I posted a video, and I mean, it's crazy to think this is like 8-9 years ago now, I posted a video and he liked the song and he showed the song to Rusty Gadsden, who is now the president of Sony. And one of the things I did not know in my research, I did not know what a PRO, like BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, I did not know what that was. So I meet with Rusty Gadsden, I was probably in town for like 8 or 9 months or so when that happened. And I was working at UPS. I got a job at UPS working the night shift so I could like write songs during the day. I got to meet with Rusty Gadsden. Rusty Gadsden introduced me a guy named Robert Philhart at ASCAP. ASCAP has this thing, and I just found out in Key West they still do it. It's called the GPS program, and I cannot remember what GPS stands for, but it's basically like where they take 10 or so people that they think are like quote unquote ready for a publishing deal, and they kind of, you get to introduce and you get to write and you get to play and they do some shows and they introduce you to publishers and stuff like that. So I met a guy named Daniel Lee at the time. He worked for BMG. I met him in 2016, and I mean, I was just young. I was only 19 years old at that time, and he kind of took me under his wing and he started booking me rights, and kind of like I was kind of writing for quote, kind of writing for him without signing a deal, if that makes sense. All right. For about a year. That was 2016. And then almost a year after meeting him, he offered me a publishing deal in 2017. So that was how kind of my first one came about. I signed a publishing deal within like 2 years, 2.5 years of being in town with a huge company, which, like I said, I was green as grass, didn't have any idea what I was doing. So I signed a publishing deal. Getting to write, with every single hit writer in town, like doing the thing, it was awesome. And then not too long after that, they offered me an artist development deal through BMG, and got to cut a bunch of music, got to do a bunch of photo shoots. We did music videos, the whole thing. Like, got to do all the stuff, and that was like I said, that was probably 2018. And then finally, we started getting everything kind of under our belt. And 2019, I started getting finally doing some showcases in town. I had some meetings with some booking agents over at UTA, and I got put on some Corey Smith shows. Got to do a tour with Corey Smith in 2019, and then obviously 2020 happens, and everything shuts down. They fire the president of BMG. No shows, no nothing. I get dropped out of my deal, and that was in like the middle, like July or so of 2020. So I had absolutely no idea what to do, what I was going to do. I did every odd and end job you could possibly imagine. I mowed grass and did maintenance at a golf course. I drove the party buses downtown. I delivered trash for a freaking apartment complex. I finally landed me a spot though that I could like make enough money working part-time. I was detailing cars, and I could do it. The guy that owned the place kind of had two shifts, kind of had a morning shift and afternoon shift. And, his hourly pay was like pretty good, and then you also got tips for people would tip you for washing their car. So finally about then I was like, okay, I'm making enough money to do this. And then about that time, I worked there for a few months. My buddy Caleb Conrady, who I do Raised Rowdy Racing with, and Caleb, and he was best man at my wedding. We've been best friends. He was one of the early people I met in town. He got the job offer to be Travis Tritt's assistant tour manager, and the guy that was like the tech, I'm kind of like the stage left tech is my title. I had no experience doing that whatsoever, but the guy that did that job, his mom got sick, he needed to stay home, get off the road, and they offered me the position with no experience, and they were like, we can teach you kind of how to do it. And it worked out perfect because it's a weekend gig. I can still write during the week. And it was finally enough money to like pay the bills again. And even a little bit more than pay the bills. Like I've in that span, that was 2021 to now, like I've bought a house, gotten married, got a new truck and stuff, all while still writing. I write songs during the week, did this. I've done that for the last 3 years. And in that span, I had never had a major label cut ever in my life. During my BMG time, and mainly because like my BMG days were straight up, I'm the artist, going in writing the songs for me, and what do you want to write about? What do you want to say? And honestly, that got super monotonous to me because I felt like I liked the same stuff. I had the same, I had my sound down, all the stuff. So it like honestly kind of felt like I was writing the same songs every single day, which was like I said, kind of got monotonous, over time there. And so I racked up 5 major label cuts. Nothing, that's like big hit on the radio, but did rack up 5 major label cuts. I got a cut on Colin Stowell's first debut album. Ironically enough, he signed at BMG. His first debut album, Out of American Idol. they ended up naming the song like the title of the album and all that stuff. Well, some people that he works with reached out to me through an email, and like this was about, it's like I said, this was like August, September last year. And my favorite part of this story is that email went to my junk folder, and I don't ever check my junk folder. And it went to my junk folder, and Laurel, who was one of the owners of Dream 3, she reached out. She's like, I started this company a couple years ago. She was like, are you looking for a pub deal? And I was like, 100%. I've been looking for one, for 3 or 4 years now. And yeah, I got some meetings with, met with her and Emily, who's the other lady there, and Greg Hill, who's that's the Dream 3. That's the 3 people that, run and own the company. And met with them, and it was like meeting and hanging out with people that I'd known forever. It was like, me and you sitting around the bed of a truck just shooting the shit, and having a good time. And that's what it was. And it was so not Nashville in the greatest of ways. And it just wasn't your stereotypical Nashville meeting where they just like ask you where you're from, how long you've been here, what part of town you live in, and who you rock with. I feel like those are the stereotypical baseline questions you get in every single meeting. And it wasn't like that at all. And I had a few meetings with them, and every meeting was just awesome. And, one of the things that makes me nervous, I think about in the music industry is there's a lot of publishers and pluggers and everybody. It's like musical chairs. Like everybody's always switching jobs, and as they're always looking for the next best opportunity, as anyone is. And one of the things they told me, it's like, this is our company. We're not looking for the next best thing. This is our company. This is what we're doing. We're not leaving here, And I love that, and I love what they had going on. You have Greg from the management side, Emily from the A&R side, Laurel from the A&R side, Emily from the publishing side. All 3 sides of the music business. And yeah, they offered me a deal shortly thereafter, and like I said, signed in January. So that was a very quick 10-minute story there of my 10 years in Nashville, but that's kind of how it's been.
What are some of the bigger cuts that you got? I know when I first found out who you were, I was very new to Nashville, and I heard, might have been before I moved, was Raised on Red.
Yeah.
That was
that was still my, I've always, I felt that's the most important song that I've written in Nashville. It's just something about it. Even when we wrote it, I know that's so cliche to say, but we wrote that song, and at the time, I wrote it with Houston Phillips. At the time, he was and still he was producing Heath Sanders, and this was before Heath had his record deal, or about that time, whatever it was, somewhere in there. We wrote this song. I think it was like in 2020. We wrote it. It was near when the Chiefs and the 49ers played in the Super Bowl the first time. Whatever year that was, 20. I think that was like the beginning of 2020, before like the world really shut down. Yeah. And we wrote the song, and I don't know if they still do this, but at MV2, that's where Houston was at the time. They could turn that whole place into a studio. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they got the mixing board. Each little building, each little room is like, where guitar and drums, whatever. And Houston made a couple changes, like musically, with that song, and we cut it there, and just something about it just felt, awesome. And finally they showed it to, like Scott Borchett and everything, and then Heath comes in, and then he puts his magic on it, and so they told us they told that song, they had already cut like a couple songs, and it was going to be on his first project that like they were putting out, out of the gate at Big Machine, and it ended up not making that cut for those songs. And I was crushed, obviously, but I was like, screw this, dude. I was like, who knows if this song will ever get heard now? Like, I'm putting this song out. And so I put the song out, started putting it on TikTok, and people loved it, and it went over super well, and it's my most streamed song. And then they told me, like, when they said that, they're like, Heath, this was in like the beginning of whatever year that was, he's going in the studio in like November, he's going to cut this song. And that happened, and I didn't think it was going to, but it did. They cut the song, and then it ended up coming out in 2021. And And then Justin Moore, got to be on it. Justin Moore's like one of my heroes. And that was just super cool. And I have a version on my phone of like just Justin, singing that song. And to hear like a dude, grew up listening to when you were 16, like flying down a back road, like those songs, like that was just, I cried like a baby. I was like, if nothing else ever happens, like I can at least say, I got a major label cut. Like there's somebody out there, like if this was 2005, my name would be on the back of an album. You know what I mean? And that was, kind of how I looked at it. So I still think that's my most, asked about and talked about song. I had that one. I had a song called Running Out on You on Kameron Marlowe's record that did really well. I have a Trey Lewis cut on Trey Lewis's record, and I have the Colin Stow cut on his record, and then I have another Colin Stow thing coming out. So those are my major label cuts that I have. So it's been cool. And those all came after my BMG deal, which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's just how it works sometimes.
It really
is.
When
you're least expecting, like you get the publishing deal, you're like, I'm going to get all these cuts, but then it all just, the way you think it's going to go is never how it goes.
Never, in this man. Town. Someone told me, and I can't remember who told me this, but it's not necessarily advice, but it's a great perspective of pretty much anything in life. You work so hard, like you climb Mount Everest, you work so hard for all this stuff, and then it's like you sign the publishing deal or you get the promotion or, whatever you're doing in life, and you get the top of Mount Everest, and then the clouds clear and there's another Mount Everest, right after that you got to, start working at and working your ass off to get, cuts and the rights and all the things, so that is 1000% exactly how it is. Like you get to there and you feel like you've accomplished this thing, and you have. And I'm a big guy of like, you should be proud of having a publishing deal and having success, but then you also see how much more work goes into it after you have the publishing deal and some success. And there was a quote someone posted the other day about like working hard. It was Hardy in his MTSU speech that just came out the other day. I cannot remember the quote, but it kind of really tied into that exact thing about like the biggest reward for working hard is more hard work or something like that. And that's just really what it is. That's the 100% fact.
Yeah, so, it's something about like working hard but not working your life away.
Yes,
or something like that.
That's exactly the quote that I saw, and and it's just it's cool, and you don't it's what's cool about it is you always have that rabbit to chase. You're always chasing something. And as a creative person, I think it's good and bad, but it's nice to always have that. You always can have the drive if you always have something to chase. You know what I mean? So I think it's cool.
When you first got to town pre-BMG, you said it was about 2.5 years before you got that first publishing deal. Was there ever a moment where you were like, I can't do this? Like, especially maybe not then, however many years ago, but in today's world, it's like you get a lot of people that move to town and they see someone blow up on TikTok prior to moving to town. They get here, they're writing with people. They're like, why am I not getting a publishing deal? And they've only been here for like 5 months, 6 months.
Yeah.
They're expecting quick results on a record deal, publishing deal, like booking, anything. But I mean, you sat there and you worked your ass off for 2.5 years before you even got your first taste of what could have been huge success with publishing.
Yeah, it was, I've kind of always told people, and it could be anything, any small thing could happen to like just give me like that ounce of hope that it could still happen, like, early on, and those things change as the years go by of what gives you the drive and the hope to keep doing it. But like moving here and like just meeting someone and hitting it off with somebody that you think is super talented, and then like my thing, like having Ben Hayslip reach out to me, that was something else. Like, man, I got to keep doing this. And then having this meeting, it's like, man, I got to keep doing this. You know what I mean? Like this cover, like I was getting right with this guy that wrote a song that I grew up listening to, like this thing. There's always been something there that I could hang on to or kind of chase, that gave me hope that this, would happen. And not sitting here saying that I've made it by no means. I still look for those things every single day of like things to chase and, keep hope in this thing. But early on, I had a roommate who his name was CJ. We actually wrote the song that Ben heard. It's called Half My Heart's in Georgia. That was like the first thing that like kind of really had some traction on the internet. Even this is not pre Instagram, but it was on like Facebook, and stuff. And but he was from my hometown, but he had like moved to Eagleville in school when he was with his parents got divorced or something and lived with his grandmother. And I knew him, and he kind of was in the music thing a little. He liked music and played guitar, but he wasn't like trying to be a musician or a songwriter or anything. But anyway, he was my first little roommate over in Donaldson, and we lived there for like 6 or 7 months, and we lived in this little studio, small apartment, and the rent, this is going to sound stupid now, but 10 years ago, like the rent total was like $670 for this place in Donaldson, which, now sounds like dirt cheap. But at the time, it was like expensive. And we were splitting that down the middle of like 300 and something bucks in utilities or something like that back in the day. And he joined the Navy. And there was a time there I was like, man, I can't, like, how am I going to afford this? And I'm working part-time at UPS. I was loading trucks. And I was like, I don't want to just get a job. I was like, if I'm working a full-time job just to pay the bills, like I could work a full-time job back home. You know what I mean? Like it was just, I didn't want to get into that. And then that was, right after that though, I was like, that's when kind of I started meeting some people and some stuff. And I was like, well, I can't afford to stay, but I can't afford to leave either. So like, I'm going to, keep doing it. And then the next big, thing was in 2020. It was like, what in the world am I going to do? I can't even play shows. I'm not even allowed to play shows. I can't, I'm not making money writing songs. I'm not making money playing, because, like I said, I was playing a bunch of shows up through, kind of started in 2018, and in 2019, I played a ton of shows, a lot of full band stuff, and it was awesome. I couldn't even make money playing shows in 2020. So it's like, what? Like I was broke. I was going broke. I had no money. I mean, as broke as you could possibly get. That was me, in 2020, early 2021. And then boom, the Travis thing. And I tell people all the time, like, without the Travis thing happening, I don't know where I would be. I don't know what I would be doing. I don't know how I would have made it to be able to continue to write songs financially. I didn't know how I was going to make it. And, and that was the next thing. And like I said, it's a weekend gig, paid the bills enough for me to write songs 2 or 3 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever. And that was, I was just, that was it. That was the next thing that, kept me hanging on, So those were the two big moments for sure of doubt, I guess, over the years. But I'm such a I'm a dreamer, you know what I mean? Like I've dreamed about all this since I was a little kid. So there's just something in there to where it's just like there's no give up. Even when you have your doubts, it's like there's still no give up, which is why I'm still hanging around and made it through those super tough times. But maybe that answers your question of those
definitely
couple of situations.
But now having gone through deals and done a bunch of different things and been here in town for a long time, you've made a bunch of different connections throughout the years. But early on, when you first came to town, what was it? Like you said, you had people reaching out to you, but outside of that, like how were you making connections that kind of like fueled the fire for you? Was it going, I don't know about what the writers round scene was like then.
Yeah, dude, it was kind of weird because I wasn't 21. So there wasn't, oddly enough, I hung out the listening room a ton because I could get into the listening room, and the listening room always had, like, as it still does, incredible shows. So I hung out the listening room a ton, and then I had I don't know if you know Chad Bishop, but Chad Bishop gave me a fake ID that he used to use back in the day. And me and the guy on the fake ID was a Florida ID. We kind of looked similar. The dude had a beard and no mustache, so that was like the selling point it just kind of worked out. And that eventually ended up getting taken away, but that helped me out, get into. And then a lot of, I would get asked to play some writers rounds at some places like Whiskey. I think it was like Whiskey Rhythm or something like that. It was down there. It's very close to Winners and Losers, right there on the corner. It's not there anymore. It's kind of where that Hop Smith or Dogwood,
right,
whatever,
yeah.
right in that area. That's what it used to be there. You know, I played some things there that people would ask me to play, and then if I was playing, it would, you know, it didn't matter if I was 21 or not. If you were playing and had a guitar, you could go in. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest, I met Caleb early on into town from a guy that I played a writer's run with at Whiskey Rhythm, and he introduced me to Caleb, and me and Caleb started writing back then. And I kind of met my group of buddies really all around the same time. Brian Frazier was a guy I met, and it was before his wife, now wife Holly, had even moved to town. They were dating at the time. They went to college together and everything. He had an apartment over in Green Hills. Like I said, I was 19, 20 years old, and everybody else always wanted to go out and party. But like Brian was like cool with like us buying a case of beer, and we'd hang out at his place and, you know, watch Eric Church videos on YouTube and stuff like that. So that was a big one. But I'll tell you, one of the coolest nights was the night that Ryan Nelson made his Whiskey Jam debut. That's how, you know, this is how long ago this is. But made his Whiskey Jam debut. I had met Ryan and actually wrote with him and Jordan Fletcher some around that time. And he was like playing. He's like, dude, you got to come. I was like, I'm not 21. He's like, dude, I'll just like let you like carry in some guitars. And like, they won't say anything. I was like, okay, sounds good to me. And so I carried in like some cymbals for the drummer, and I carried in like a guitar, and they let me ride in. And that night I met Alex Maxwell, who is obviously another one of my great friends. And so that was kind of how I did it back then. I didn't have much of a choice. You know, I was just kind of trying to sneak my way into here. Back in the day too, before Tin Roof, when Revival was at Tin Roof, and like guys like Ray and Luke Combs and all those guys, before they had absolutely anything going on, you know, they were playing there, and you could walk in on the back porch. There wasn't a bouncer on the back porch, so like I would always walk in that way. So that was another way I could get in and like meet some of those guys and hang out and like be around people. So it was a weird thing, you know. I would honestly, looking back, you know, recommend like maybe not moving to Nashville until you're 21, probably. But I did not do that. But you know, it would probably make sense if you wanted to get into bars and like meet people. It'd probably be smart to wait till you're 21 to do it. Maybe save some money up and then come. But I just made it, you know, anywhere that I could, and that's kind of how I did it.
Yeah, I was just curious because, I mean, like, I don't know if you've listened to this podcast much, but like, it's a common reoccurring theme that in every single episode we talk about, like, oh, how did you make it in this town? And they're like, well, I went out and networked.
Yeah.
So it's just like a ton of, no matter what side of the business you're on, whether you're like A&R like me, or you're publishing, or you're an artist, or just a songwriter, not even full on artist, like it's all about going out, making the connections, and just trying to advance your career that way.
I'll tell you another. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, you're the first singer-songwriter that I've had on the podcast. It's all been business professionals before, so it's cool to have like a different perspective, because I get a lot of listeners that are upcoming artists and songwriters. Yeah,
you know, and it's and I don't even know like how that, like if someone said like, how do you become a publisher, I would have no idea what the answer would even be. You know what I mean? I don't even know how to say like, do it this way. And there's no like specific plan for anybody and anything in this business. Like you just said, it's meeting people, and this kind of like being in the right place at the right time, or you know, this happening and stuff. There's no, you can interview 100 people, and there's gonna be 100 different stories of how they got to, you know, where they were. I also kind of forgot about this, but in that GPS program that I was talking about, I was 19 when I got that in 2016. It was in January 2016. So I would have turned 20 that year, but I was 19 when I got into that thing. And I was in a like stout group of people. It was Joe Fox was in there. Joe Fox produced my first like Nashville EP that I did, that I funded. I borrowed money, $3,000 from the bank, and me and Joe did this 5-song EP together. And I met Joe through the GPS thing. Joe, Matt Stell, Joshua Melton, who has hit songs now, Noreen Prunier, who went from the songwriting side of things to the business side of things, and now she works for a record company out in LA. Like, it was just a group of people that really ended up having some, major stuff, happen. And that was cool because those were some of the early people I met too. I got to, the way they do GPS, like, you're kind of riding with those people all the time. They're doing little hangouts. Like I said, we did riders rounds together and, all that. And I talked to a guy in Key West, and that's all kind of, it's not exactly the same, but it's still, a thing, which I'm a big supporter of that. And that's an ASCAP thing. I like I said, I'm glad they're still doing it, but it definitely, it 1000% helped me out and, get me into meeting some people, and like I said, eventually getting a publishing deal out of that. So it was a cool
This
thing.
was speaking of Key West, this was my first Key West ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did you enjoy it?
Dude, it was like, people, I don't know what to compare it to, but like people will go like talk up a movie that comes out.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, like you got to see this. It's like the best movie you'll ever watch. So then you go in like expecting it to be the best movie you've ever seen. Yeah. And then you leave always disappointed. People hype this up.
You left disappointed from Key West?
No. I went in, I was like, this is going to be the greatest time of my life. And it sure as shit was. I was expecting to like go there and be like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. Yeah. And it was everything I thought it was and more.
That's awesome.
Like, I'm already about to book they just came out with the dates for next year.
Oh, sweet.
I'm already about to book my shit there.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was my third Key West. I've kind of done the Key West thing as a celebration thing for me. Like I said, I didn't even know about the Key West trip until I moved to Nashville. And then it doesn't take long to hear about Key West once you're here. Like, you almost kind of start hearing about it immediately, especially around the summer. It's just kind of like what everyone's talking about. And you're like, what is this? What is this thing? And, I had buddies that went all the time, and I was like, man, I'm not going to go till I like almost have a reason to go. I wanted to wait, and I was like, if I ever get a publishing deal, like, I'll go to Key West. So I got a publishing deal, and I went, and I told everyone there, I was like, I'm not coming back here until I get a major label cut. I was like, I'm not doing it. Got a major label cut at the end of 2021, went in 2022. I was like, told you I'll be back, and then this year it's like, have the I got a publishing deal, and it's like, all right, we'll go again. So, and my publishing company was awesome. Like, they helped pay for a bunch of stuff, and it was they're just awesome. So they brought our whole crew down and paid for a bunch of stuff. So it's awesome. I mean, Key West is great, and you get to see and meet and talk to people you wouldn't necessarily get to talk to in Nashville, and stuff like that. I do love it. It exhausts me after I'm beat after it's over, but yeah. It's great for the 4 or 5 days you're there.
100%. By Sunday, I'd say like Saturday afternoon, I was like, all right, I'm ready to pack my stuff up and leave on Sunday.
We left Saturday night, and it was perfect. It was like we're wore out, done. Like, Saturday nights, this is perfect time to get out of here.
We were like, by Saturday afternoon, we were like, all right, it's our last night here. Let's go out. So we went to Revival at Island Dogs, and we lasted till about like 11. And then we were like, yeah, let's just go home. We did rent a moped the last day. So I wish I had more time on the moped.
Yeah, I found out early it's good to rent some source of transportation down there. So I've rented the golf cart a few times, 2 of the times that I've been down, and we did that the day. Like, we literally got there. There's a go-kart place or whatever right beside us. Boom, rented it, had the go-kart or the golf cart the whole time. So having the transportation is definitely a for sure thing if you go.
Especially if you're staying far, because we stayed in Margaritaville, and that was like a 15-minute drive in a car.
Wow.
Maybe like 12. But yeah, I was spending so much money on Ubers. Yeah. So then by the last day, I was like, I'm just going to bite the bullet and spend $75 on a moped for a day.
Probably saves you money than paying $15 per Uber, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we were back and forth all the time, all these different places.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that was convenient. But I mean, you're right in the sense of there's a lot of people there that you wouldn't get to talk to in Nashville. Like, there's a lot of industry people that you would never see out enough to go up and like shake their hand in that environment. So just have people like that in Key West where everybody's drinking and chill and laid back. Everyone's just there to have a good time.
Yeah.
Like you're going up, everyone wants to shake hands. It's the perfect spot for networking.
Yeah, it really is. And I think you just nailed it. Like everybody kind of like leaves like the Nashville stress at the door kind of thing. And it's like it's just like Nashville, but different. And I think that's you nailed it there. It's kind of the most different thing is everyone's like almost like the guards down a little bit. And,
Yeah.
I do think that's probably the most beneficial thing about Key West is, like you just said, the guards down, you can talk to people, you're chill, everybody's there to have a good time, people you haven't seen in years. Like it really is a great thing.
Like the pool party that I saw you at, I think it was
Yeah.
the first day, May 1st.
Yeah.
That was like, I mean, to me, to see all those people that you kind of just hear their names, but then to shake their hands and they like actually want to sit there and talk to you. And it's just like you're going around, bouncing around, talking to people you never thought you would be in a room with. And it's just like, no one cares. Like in Nashville, people would like try and close themselves off to be like, I don't really want to talk.
Yep.
Because they do it every day.
Yep.
Key West is just different.
Yeah. I think it's the guard's down. The Nashville guard is down. Even though it's Nashville and Key West, the Nashville thing like is left at the gate in Nashville.
Yeah. So moving on to the different side of the business that you do, touring with Travis Tritt.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is your role? And what's it like being on the road with such a legend of an artist?
So my my title is like stage left tech. So I set up we have a small crew. So we all like wear like multiple hats and all kind of take over, but we all know our exact roles and responsibilities, so like we don't have to worry about what the other guy's doing and the other guy doesn't have to worry about what you're doing, which is really cool. So like the drums, bass, we have a utility steel player that plays like guitar, harmonica, dobro, and steel. We have another utility player that plays fiddle, acoustic guitar, and mandolin. And my job is I set all that up, make sure it all makes noise the way it's supposed to make noise. Everything's in the right place. We do a sound check every day. Like I go through and line check all of my instruments. The band comes in and does a line check, so they can get with the monitor guy and, dial in stuff from the different days, different venues. I do Travis's chair. I roll his big leather chair out there for the acoustic set. I do that. I give Travis his hat. Just small random things, like that's like have a checklist of like after I do my setup and everything's set up and makes noise the way it's supposed to, I have a checklist of stuff that I just go down and making sure batteries and frequencies and all that stuff's all set. And so that's kind of my role and what I do there. Like I said, I was green as grass. I didn't know anything about it, had nothing about it. All I knew, and I've said this to people before, like all I knew before this was like writing songs and singing them. I didn't know how Tortuga worked. I didn't know how the show happened, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like I know about us playing clubs for 2,000, 1,500 people. And at the time, like playing wise, like the Corey Smith stuff was the biggest stuff I had. Now I've been to big concerts. Don't get me wrong. I've been in the crowd of big festivals and big concerts growing up. But playing them in wise, like the biggest shows that I ever played was with Corey Smith. We did like the House of Blues scene. That's kind of where, traveling around and doing that. And that was kind of as big as I'd ever seen it. And, so I didn't know anything about a Tortuga or We Fest or, now we're doing this Rock the Country thing, which is basically just a traveling Rock the South. It's the same people that, same stage, same promoter, same guy that owns all of that stuff. So, I didn't know nothing about any of that. And it's been an eye-opening experience, and just it kind of, when I was still looking for a deal and things, Daniel Lee, I don't know if you know Daniel Lee, but he's been, like I said, he was the one that signed me my first deal at BMG, and he's kind of just been in my corner this whole time. And I've always taken, we'll go get coffee or drinks or whatever. And, when I first told him about this, I was like, do you think this is like a good idea? He's like, dude, like look at it like you're going to grad school. And it's kind of what I've taken it as, and I've learned so much, and it's going to help me. if I can ever be the artist that does have a band and crew and, you know, travel the country, it's going to help me so freaking much. And I'm so thankful that I do have this. And like I said before, without Travis Tritt and the guys that, you know, that hired me, who knows where I'd be. Like, I owe them so much just for like pulling me out of a hole, you know, especially financially there and mentally, you know, just all the things, like I said, the doubt and all the stuff. Like, it was just another thing. Like, I get to work in the business. I get to see people, you know, and like people like Lainey Wilson, like me and Lainey, she was getting offers from BMG, but at the same time I was. And she ended up I think her record deals with BMG now. But like, you know, I met her and got to be around her a bunch back in the day. You know, I hadn't seen her in years. And a few years now Travis, it would be the roles would be reversed. But a few years ago, she was doing the opening slots for Travis. And it was like, to get to see Lainey, and like, there's been so many people that I've gotten to see that I haven't seen or met over the years that have just been like, you know, it's good to see, good, you know, good to talk to and all that. So it's a really awesome thing. It's by no means like my end goal. Like, I don't want to be a tech for the rest of my life. Like, obviously I want to be a full-time either songwriter or have my own artist thing. And we're cutting new music and working towards that, and like working back towards kind of what it was in 2019, but hopefully a bigger, better version of that, you know? So, but yeah, all that to say, like, it's been awesome. And I thank God that it is happening and has happened, because it literally saved me from just pulling me out of a hole and all that. I've said it, 5 times now, but it really did. So I owe those guys a lot.
What's it like being on the road for this Rock the Country thing? Because I mean, that's Kid Rock's thing, right?
Yeah, Kid Rock and Jason Aldean. It's man, I've said it's the same thing I say all the time. Like, festivals, like working the festivals, there's so much more stress working a festival than there is like doing like a normal Travis headlining show. When you're the headliner, like, you're in control, like, you have all the room you need, you have everything you need. And that brings me to a point that I want to get to after this. But like, on these Rock the Country things, it's kind of mind blowing, because they have like, within, not counting all the opening, like your early day people, which that it's great that they're all on it, but in 2 days you're getting 6 acts. You're getting like 12 acts total, but you're getting 6 acts that all sell out arenas all across the country, all on one stage. So naturally, there's a bunch of stuff on that stage every single night, you know? So like, room is limited. I guess that's probably my biggest complaint with it, is just room is limited. And that's any festival. But the coolest thing is working for Travis, and even just being the low man on the totem pole. Like, I'm just on Travis's crew. People give us the utmost respect because he is such a legend. And I mean, future country music Hall of Famer, you know what I mean? And still doing this, and people love him so much. Like, we go to like, for example, we did Tortuga from opening for Morgan Wallen. And stage manager, we get in there, and stage manager's like, hey, I'm going to treat y'all like headliners. Whatever you need, whatever space you need, like, you got it. And they're not going to do that for, the guy, like, I don't even have a good example, but, if I was there as an artist, that they're not going to do that for me. Like, that respect isn't there yet. You know what I'm saying? And like, everyone respects Travis and loves Travis so much. And that respect and love kind of, it trickles down through the crew and us getting, like I said, space on stage and stuff like that. Like, they really are. Like, it would be way more difficult to do those Rock the Country things if you worked for someone smaller or something like that. It's just kind of like, at the end of the day, there's like, whatever room's left, that's what you got, So
Yeah.
it's freaking awesome getting to work for a guy like Travis Tritt and getting respected so highly every day. And everywhere, it's just like, what can I do for you? What do you need? Whatever. And that's like, not everybody gets that. So that's a big benefit of working with like these legacy acts that are still touring, like Travis, Tracy Lawrence, Clint Black, Tracy Byrd, like all those guys. Like, I would assume they all get that respect and love towards them.
Going back to the stage thing, Kid Rock. I mean, that's like, out of anybody that you could be playing with.
Yeah.
I can imagine he has like the most packed stage because he puts on like a whole ass performance, like a
Yeah.
full on show.
Yeah, it's been he does, but from what I see, I was told. So our first one, we've done all of them so far. The first one we did with Kid Rock was this past weekend. So we've been doing them with Aldine, and we also toured with Aldine in 2022 or 2023. And Aldine's like the show's different, but the setup of like the way where the drummer and the whole setup thing in the middle, all that has stayed the same. And we didn't know that going in, it was going to be exactly the same, but it is. So we were used to that. We knew what we were getting when we got into that. But the funny thing was, like, we're just told, like, we did some shows with Kid Rock at Bridgestone, and we had to split our risers, and like he kind of comes out of these two middle doors. It's like kind of where he enters and exits. And we thought that was going to be the case. We had to go through the center of this stage setup. And any other day, that's fine. Like when it was just us and Kid Rock, no big deal. We can do that. But when you're on a festival, time is crunched. You don't have time to do anything. So you have to do what saves the most time. And luckily, they still had the same amount of space where we could keep risers together 8x8. We could go around the edge, and all that. So that it surprised me because we were all told, there's all this stuff on the stage, yada yada yada. And I'm thinking, damn, we're gonna have to, like, there's no way I'm gonna have enough time to build my stuff, literally tearing it all apart. I'm not gonna have enough time to do it in a changeover, putting it back together. And thank God that wasn't the case. So we were able to go around the edges and keep everything on 8x8 risers, which was a blessing. So thank God for that. Our next one is with Leonard Skinner and Kid Rock, and the same thing. I've been told that Leonard Skinner has a ton of stuff. So I guess I'm just gonna have to see it when I get there, when I wake up that morning, and see what they have. So I've just been kind of taking them day by day. I'm trying not to stress about them too much because I'm a worrier and a stressor when it comes to that kind of thing. So I've just been kind of taking it day by day and seeing what happens. And so far so good. The only thing that screwed us last weekend was it rained in the southeast.
I saw it was super muddy.
Oh my God, I've never seen nothing like it in my life. So that sucked. I mean, it was just mud, dude. Our buses were getting stuck. People couldn't get in. They had artist bus, like, not even on the property. They were having to drive in cars, just like crazy stuff again that I've never experienced before. And it's just, part of it. But
I went to this was 2018, I think. I went to the Gulf Coast Jam in Panama City Beach.
Yeah.
And it rained, I think, the first day. And I think it was Florida Georgia Line headlining.
Yeah.
And by the time that they were playing, it was like the entire field was just full of mud. I brought one pair of shoes, tennis shoes, and had to throw them away.
Yep. After
the first day.
I bought new shoes Saturday morning.
Yeah.
I ruined my shoes Friday. They were old. I'd been touring them for like a year and a half, but me and two other guys went and bought brand new shoes. There was we had a normal Travis headlining show in South Carolina the following night, and it was in Columbia. So like Columbia is, a college town, full strip down there of, whatever you need. And we all went down there and bought shoes. So I feel you on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun though. Like, it's maybe not so much for you setting up, but the people out in the pit, I mean, they're just drinking, ripping cigs, and doing it for America.
Yeah. I mean, I went and saw, there's a place called Lakewood Amphitheater in Atlanta, and it's only about 45 minutes away from where I grew up. And dude, I saw like Florida Georgia Line headline there. I saw Jason Aldean headline there as a kid. I actually saw, when I was a super small kid, Taylor Swift open up for Brad Paisley there. Like I enjoy the festival thing as a fan, like sitting there. Like we'd always did the lawn chair thing. It was always, like a bunch of us in high school. But it's a different animal working it. You know what I mean? It's just like you have a job to do and you have to get it done. And there's no it not happening. Like it's going to happen, like no matter what. So there's just a lot of adapt and overcome and, figuring it out.
Yeah. So where are you from? Are you from Rome, right? Rome, Georgia?
Born and raised in Rome, yeah, which is
Yeah.
where we were uh,
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Friday night when it
When it was
rained. So
muddy.
yeah,
So you should be used to it down there.
yeah, it was. We've just had a crazy. Is it the same weather that's been in the southeast? Having all these tornadoes and all this stuff. It's the same weather that's been around, and
It's like pouring right now.
yeah,
Thunder. And you could probably be able to hear it in the podcast after.
Yeah. It's just I don't really know what people expected with it raining so much. When we stepped off the bus, Big and Rich was also playing, and like some of their guys were talking to us, and we were kind of talking to some of the Kid Rock guys. We were like, just looking at the ground, we were all like, I don't know how there's going to be a show here today. Like, as a liability standpoint, I mean, it was a mud hole. And they took all these bulldozers and caterpillars and all this stuff and took all the topsoil off, pushed it down to like where it was like kind of that red Georgia clay. Then they had this like hay. It's kind of like a wood chipper, but like this hay throwing machine, and it, threw hay everywhere. And before like 40,000 people stepped all over it, it looked really good from what it was. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible. But they did have to push doors. Doors got pushed back 2 hours. Like all the shows got pushed back, and people, like I said, adapt and overcome. Like it's going to happen one way or another.
Yeah.
There's no way it's not going to happen. You just got to figure out how it's going to happen. So it's crazy, but when it's good, it's great. And like when we do a normal, like a Travis Tritt, like seeing Travis sing like Great Day to Be Alive at these festivals, like it'll give you chill bumps, because like the whole crowd is just,
especially that
up.
crowd that's there for like obviously
Kid Rock, Aldean show.
Yeah, the most like American country
redneck
artists,
people of all time. Yeah. It's really cool. Like it gives me chills every time I see it. And then like our bread and butter, like the second night we played this auditorium. This was in South Carolina. It was like 2,900, 3,000 people. Travis sells it out. And I mean, it's just a rowdy group. People are standing up the whole time and just going crazy. And like even seeing those massive legacy songs getting sang, in front of the 3,000 people when they sing it to the top of their lungs, it's just like kind of you just have to be like, wow, this is insane. This is crazy.
Yeah. That's pretty sweet.
Like I said, all that to say, I love it, and it's been great, and like I said, it's helped me out a ton. So I'll always be thankful for it, no matter what.
100%. Before we kind of wrap up here, I want to talk more about the songwriting world, and I kind of want to hear what your advice is to somebody that's thinking about moving to Nashville, or just a younger singer-songwriter in town that's trying to get that publishing deal and trying to make it or get their first label cut, whatever it is.
Yeah. Wow, that flood there. I've gotten so much advice and so many things told to me, and I've been through so many things. I think the biggest thing for me, and I've never like said this publicly, but I'm going to say it on here because I don't mind. But something that's really, really helped me mentally is, like the horses, like horse racing, have your blinders on, whatever. Just like I said earlier in this podcast, if you talk to 100 people, all 100 people are going to give you a different story of how their situation worked out. And every single situation is different. So I think keeping your blinders on and not comparing yourself to another person and another, the way another artist or the way a song blew up or way, whatever, how it happens. Like you have to keep your blinders on. And the part I haven't really said publicly, like in like 2020 and 2021, when I was like so just kind of down and out, like didn't know what was next, like didn't know what was coming, like there was people, especially during TikTok and such going on. It's like people that I know well. I would like just kind of mute them, like press mute on Instagram for a while, just so like I didn't have to see it all the time. You know what I mean? And it's not like it wasn't in like a mad or disrespectful or like nothing like that. It was just for like me mentally not to have to see it 24/7, because I also feel like too, something that happens in Nashville is people always like we do this same thing every day, and then people want to talk about it all the time, and then you get on Instagram and all you see is music.
Right.
And I don't think it's healthy to be engulfed with it nonstop. Like literally, you can't get away from it, you know. And I think that's the great thing about having like good friends is like you can sit down with your buddies and talk about football or racing or just the world or like, you know, whatever's going on. Like you don't have to like sit and talk about the music industry all the time. Now, granted, I think having music industry talks and like talking about what's going on in the business and the changing and all that, I think that is good. I just don't think you have to engulf your whole life with that's the only conversation you can have. And I'm sure you know people just like I do. It's like the only thing they can talk about is music.
There's been a lot of times where I'm like, I like look at myself, like I'll be in a conversation with somebody for an hour and I'm just like, damn, the only thing I've talked about is music.
Yeah.
Like
and it's all we know. It's like we're just ingrained in it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'll catch myself. I mean, I got not scolded, but I kind of like learned my lesson is like, I'm young in this industry and I'm learning a bunch of things, figuring things out.
Yeah.
And I always was under the impression like, there's really, just because your office opens at this hour and closes at this hour, that's just like, because you're supposed to have office hours, but everybody's pretty much on the clock in this business 24/7.
Yeah.
You know,
that's exactly what I was saying.
There's shows at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. You know, you're out till midnight a lot of times. So I'm like, there's people are working at all hours on the weekends. And so I'm like texting on the weekends. And I had someone this past weekend be like, hey, don't text me on the weekends. I was like, you got it.
Yeah.
And that's just like, for me being so young, it was like, okay, that's a wake up call that you have to kind of shut off, take some time to shut off when you're going 24/7.
Totally. I think it's unhealthy to be in that headspace. Like, if you work a normal job, like whatever your normal job is, and you know, it's like you just said, the office is open and then it closes, and it's like you go home to your wife and kids or family or whatever, and it's like you don't think about that job again until the next day. And you just nailed it on the head. Like in Nashville, that's not a thing. Like it's all the time. And I was that way, and I've let not to get like too like I'm not personal, I guess, or whatever here, but like I've let my whole life like music control like every decision I've made, I guess, you know. And it's be like, well, I can't do this because like I'm trying to do this, and I can't do this because I'm trying to do this, and I've missed out on so much in life. And this is the only thing I want in life, but like you can't, kind of like we're talking about, Hardy said, you can't like work your life away or like let it slip by, you know. And that was like, for everyone that doesn't know, like now, you know, I live 2 hours away from Nashville, like closer back to my hometown. And that was another one of those decisions, man. It's like you let music, I just let music control like my whole life, dude. And it's like it's just like it's unhealthy. Like, you know, you know, my wife now, you know, we dated in high school, and it's like this girl, you know, I want to marry, and it's like I want to get married, you know, I want to buy a house, I want to do all these other things too. And you don't have to let music control, you know, every single thing that you do. And so I finally like it was somewhere in that 2020, 2021, whenever that was, like I finally just like, dude, I'm just going to like, dude, if I'm going to keep doing my thing, and if it happens, like it happens, but I'm not going to let this thing control me and eat me alive like every day, you know, because you can just get so caught up in thinking about it. Then you get on Instagram or TikTok just to try to like think about something else, and boom, it's right back in your face again, nonstop. And unless you're in the business, you don't understand that. And then like your friends that are not in the music business, they want to talk to you about music. And then like your family that's not in the music business, they want to talk to you about music. And it's like, damn, can I ever escape this? You know,
That's been like That is a huge point, is everybody that doesn't understand it wants to talk about it.
Exactly.
Like you go back for Thanksgiving and Christmas and
Exactly. It's like
everybody's
when you
asking
trying out for American Idol, or when you doing this, like you should write songs with Morgan Wallen. It's like, holy shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I know like every single person, whether you're on what side of the business you're on, it doesn't matter. You get asked all those same questions, because I've always said the music business is the most misunderstood business, that if you're not in it, you don't understand it at all. And the misconception of like everything, for like literally someone being like, dude, you should send this to Morgan Wallen. It's like, well, fuck, dude, if I had his number, I would send it right now. You know what I mean? Like,
I know. I hope
they just don't
that
understand that.
Out of this entire episode, if we could clip one thing, I want it to be this segment. Because I want people in the outside world to understand that, like, if you said it best, like if you're not in it, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many moving parts that it just doesn't work. The way you think it works is not how it works.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
don't think you have it figured out.
Yeah,
none of us do, and we're in it.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. None of us. It changes so fast, and like we're all in it. It's all moving and just all the things. So like all that to say, like, I have felt the most like at peace with everything, and like having the most fun like I've ever had, like going in and writing songs every day in the last, like, even before I got my publishing deal, but like in the last, like, couple years, just like, and I know that has a little bit to do with like finally having some, like, me personally having some cuts, but then also my buddies, like some of my best friends, I've all had like some super big stuff happen to them, and getting to produce and write on some freaking radio hits and people that are on the radio and stuff. It's just like, it's just been so much more healthy and more exciting and more driven, I think, and that's all happened, dude, within the last, like I said, few years, and it's just been great. And it sounds so small, but like muting some things, just even pages, whatever it is, like on social media, I think it's great, so you don't have to see it down your throat every single day. And even I guess this all stemmed from the question of like the advice question, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I feel like that was a long drawn out answer, but I feel like that is part of it. Like, just like, you got to be present and you got to be obsessed with something, especially in this business, to make it happen. But it doesn't have to be the only thing in your whole entire life that you
just
have to
a happy
think about.
medium.
Yeah, you got to have a happy medium, because it'll drive you insane. And I've been insane. I've been insane, in my 10 years here from being around.
We're all passionate about it. Everybody in this town, they're here because they're passionate about the music, the songwriting, the artists, the people that surround them. But I mean, it's like there needs to be an on and off switch, because otherwise, you, like, to bring up the Hardy quote again, like, you will work your life away if you're not taking weekends, or if you're. I mean, I have friends currently that are playing, like, they're going from playing Broadway for 4 hours to a writer's round to working a night shift, to where it's like, you do that enough, you're here for 4 months and you're like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore.
Burn out, man. And that's what I'm saying. I don't want people to take everything I just said and take it as like, be lazy or don't work hard. Like, you gotta work hard, and you gotta go at it. But like I said, happy medium, and just like, like you said, you can't, back in the day, same with me. Like, when I first get my deal, I'm like, dude, I got to write, every chance I get, dude. And I'm writing, 2 times a day, 3 times a day. It's like, you're like, holy shit, like, I'm burnt out, dude. Like, you get like, I am burnt out. Like, what else could my brain think about writing about? And that's not a good place to be in.
Yeah, you'll never make it if you don't put yourself and like your, like, taking care of yourself first.
Totally.
Like, people talk about the mental health thing in this town, because a lot of people put their careers over it. You see a lot of artists take breaks because a lot of artists pop really fast. Yeah. And it's all of a sudden you're in it. You're thrown into where you're on the weekend, or you're on the road all weekend, and just like constant. There's a lot of people throwing themselves at you, and it's a lot. Yeah, dude. If you don't put your mental health first, I mean, you're toast.
You have to. And I mean, that was another thing that was so cool, about meeting Laurel and Emily and Greg, like everybody at Dream 3 and Kobalt. For me, it's like, I had bought my house. We had bought the house and everything before all that had happened, and I was kind of already doing this exact schedule that I'm doing now. I had already been doing it. It's just like now that I have a publishing deal and I'm doing it, and I have Emily, is making my schedule. But it's like I was like, I do this. I was like, if it's a 3-day weekend, I take Monday and Tuesday for me. And I was like, if it's a 2-day weekend, I take Monday for me. And I was like, you have to have 2 days at least, just like every other job in America. I was like, you have to have 2 days. And my situation's different because I'm on the road, but I'm on the road working for an artist. So it's a little different than being the artist on the road. But you have to take those 2 days, and man, they were so understanding and cool, like wanting to work around my schedule, work around like the Travis thing, work around like Greg, the guy, he's from Georgia. And he told me, he's like, I lived in Antioch with Maxwell. Me and Maxwell were roommates for like 4 or 5 years. And, like living in Antioch, it's like your neighbor's windows are getting busted out. And there's like police sirens and there's gunshots and like all this. And it's like, you're almost like scared to go to sleep sometimes just because you just like never know. And it's like not just Antioch. There's bad stuff that happens everywhere. But like, I told them all that. And I was like, man, they were like so pumped. Like, dude, I'd rather you live 2 hours away in your little town, like where you love it, than get out of right and go to, the hood where you hate it and like you hate your life. It's like you're going to be way more happy, have way more song ideas, and be way more into it. Being happy, being happy and doing what you do than being miserable. And, I come from the woods. Like I'm a small town, like not
fish
big
out of
city.
water here in Nashville.
Yeah. I'm not a big city, living in where the gunshots and the police and all that, like that's just not where I'm from. It's not how I, was raised. And, so yeah, it's way, being in that environment. Yeah. You're a fish out of water. You're like, what the hell? And, so it's just been, bringing up mental health. It's been so, the last couple of years, man, have just been so great. Even it was, just trying to get a deal and like all the things, like, it's just like, even if, like I said, if the deal would have never happened, it's still been great just to like be able to be around it, be in it, and like just not be in I can like get away. I don't have to be in the craziness all the time. And I'm just fortunate and lucky and blessed that the deal happened. And I have some cuts now with Colin, and just the right person saw my name on the credits and wanted to reach out.
Well, hell yeah, dude. I appreciate you coming on. I think
dude, this has been awesome. I'll be honest. This is probably the most like I haven't done a podcast like this in a long time. I've only done like a couple podcasts. I did like Burrell's when it was Inside the Round. I did like that. Kind of talked about me, and that was kind of in that weird like 2020 thing. And I've done a couple podcasts, but this is like definitely the most vulnerable. I haven't done a podcast since, in the last, for like 4 years, other than my own, where we don't talk about this stuff. We talk about NASCAR.
Right.
So, so it's like, it is the most vulnerable I've probably ever been on a podcast, but it's also like just where I'm at in life. And like you said, like advice and stuff I'd give, it's just kind of like where I'm at and like the way it's been, like the way, like how I've made it be now and how I've done it. So, I guess it kind of makes sense that I'd be more vulnerable now since I've lived a lot more life since 2020, the last one I did with Burrell or whatever. So this has been awesome, dude. I really enjoyed it.
You talked about the, like if you asked 100 people their stories, you'll hear 100 different stories.
Yeah.
But it's still important to hear those stories because there's bits and pieces that you'll take from the story that, you take 100 stories, you take one thing from each. There's 100 different things that you can take to your own and make your own story. Totally.
And I used to kind of like I talked about me and Brian watching, Eric Church videos. That was another thing when I said I was like, I was sitting in my room when I was a kid, like, and then like whether it be like CMA Fest or like radio interviews. And I don't even know if you're like a YouTube junkie, but like the Bing Lounge was a thing that was like really big back in there. It was like one of the radio stations. And all the artists would come through and do like 4 songs and also do like an interview, like a question and answer kind of thing. And any artist that I gave a shit about, Eric Church, Brantley Gilbert, and Hank Jr., like the reasons why I picked up a guitar. But there's a ton of different artists who, like, I love them and respect them. And, they were all like coming up through that thing. And I mean, dude, you name like Aldine, Brantley, Randy Houser, Dustin Lynch, Kip Moore was another one. Like all those guys, like 10 years ago, were like 15 years ago, were like just coming up and like just getting started. And dude, I would find every interview, everything that I could about those guys and like their story to like learn about Nashville, really, and like learn about like they were talking about stuff that I had no idea about. But like when it happened to me or I saw something, it's like, oh, I remember like them talking about this, or like like even when I was sitting in my room when I was 13 writing songs by myself. And I never had co-written, till I got to Nashville and like co-wrote songs. It's like almost even kind of knew how a co-write worked from like listening to those guys and in their interviews talk about co-write. So like something even as small as that, and I was just a YouTube, and podcasts weren't a thing back then. Like it was just YouTube for me when I was growing up. So it was, I was just a YouTube junkie and searched and found every interview any of those guys ever did to like, take advice and all that. Maybe some kid that wants to move to Nashville will listen to this, or
that's the goal.
Someone that likes me or you, or like, dude, that's cool. I also try to be like super open, like especially on Facebook. Like when I made posts about like 2021 and 2020 and like just shit that happened, is like I'm just like an open book. I try to be. It's like this isn't all like glitz and glam. You know what I mean? Like I feel like a lot of people in the music, like back home, if you're like not just me, anybody, it's like if you're in Nashville, people just automatically assume you're like rich and like just
100%.
living the best life of all time and ever. And I just want to like show that it's not always great, like just because like everybody's posting in their new truck and social media is a highlight reel for everyone.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like I want to like post out there and be like, it's not all this, you know what I mean? And I've always tried to like be that guy that like could, if someone looked, some kid that wanted to move here, whatever it may be, just like, it's not going to be all bubblegum and rainbows. Like there's some low points, and it's okay to have low points. You got to have both to make the story work,
Yeah. And that's why I try to be so open on these podcasts that sometimes I'm too open, but it's just like even me saying about how I just got bitched at by another adult for texting on the weekends. Like I'm just trying to like being open is how people learn. And it's like
dude.
just being real. If I was sitting here just beating around the bush and like sugarcoating shit, I mean, you would never actually learn how this industry worked.
I could get on this podcast today and just give you the highlight reel.
Right,
I could just
100%.
say, I could just give you the high points that have happened to me over the last 10 years, and people be like, man, that dude's life is perfect. And Peyton's life is perfect. You know what I mean? And man, I'm going to move to Nashville and it's just going to be perfect. And that's just not the case. And I feel like it's another thing I was talking about, like maybe muting someone on social media or like whatever it is. You're only seeing their high point. So you're comparing yourself, like you're like sitting there in your low point, comparing yourself to their high point, And it's like, you don't have to do that. And that's all they want to post and all they want to say. And it doesn't have to be that way. Everyone goes through low points. Everyone goes through high points in this town too. But there's no point in getting on here when you have a platform just to like talk about all the great things. Like you want everybody to know the good and the bad things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, again, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, dude. I really enjoyed it.
We'll have to whenever you're in town next, you'll have to hit me up. We'll go grab a drink or something.
Yeah, dude, totally. I'll be in town tomorrow.
Oh, cool. I'm moving. So my folks are in town this week.
Just leaving your apartment that we were just at the other day?
Yeah.
Leaving that?
Yeah. I'm moving
out to the country?
Yeah, so my brother is moving into town.
Okay.
But he's 20, so he turns 21 in September. He's going to try to get in the music business.
Okay.
So if you want to grab a drink or something, just hit me up. I'll be around.
Yeah, dude. I come into town tomorrow. I'm writing in the morning, and then we got to leave. We're going to Austin, Texas, so we got a long bus drive, so we're leaving way earlier than normal. Normally our leave outs are like 10 or midnight, but we're leaving like in the afternoon on
Oh wait,
Thursday.
ACMs would have happened already probably, or is it for the ACMs?
No, the ACMs are Thursday. We play Friday.
Gotcha.
Yes, all in the same town, same area. Yes,
Yeah.
but we're doing a normal Travis show. Travis is headlining on Friday night in right outside of Austin, and then Saturday night, pretty cool thing. Travis is headlining, but it's like a Texas. Travis is really popular in Texas. It's just his music, does well anywhere in like the Southeast. Really, I mean, I lie. Travis sells tickets and does well everywhere, but like the Southeast is like rowdier, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But we're doing like a Texas festival, and it's like the Red Clay Strays and Pat Green, and I mean, there's a bunch of like great Texas acts. But Travis is headlining that festival on Saturday, and that's in College Station. So
hell yeah.
Another college town.
Nice.
So yeah, it'll be a good weekend. We're far, Texas is a long way away, long bus drive.
Yeah, it's a long way.
Usually if it's past Texas is when we're in the airplane, but we anywhere from like the middle of the United States, east, we're usually in the bus. So it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. There's a guy, can't remember his name. I'm seeing his name a lot more though now, and you probably know what I'm talking about when I say it, but he's opening the show Friday night. Braxton Keith.
Oh yeah, big Texas guy.
Yeah, so I've seen his name. I saw his name originally. This has been on the schedule now for quite a while, but since then, I saw his name, and then it's like boom, I saw his name on Master Tour, and now I'm seeing it a lot more. People are going to showcases and shows and having rights and stuff. So I'm excited to watch him play. Just I've never seen him play. I don't really know a lot about him, but I'm excited to see him play Friday night.
Sweet. Well, thank you all for listening to another episode of Behind the Music Biz, a Raised Rowdy podcast. Thanks again to our guest, Dawson Edwards. You want to drop your socials real quick before we close out?
I'm Dawson Edwards Music all across the board. If you type in Dawson Edwards, you should be able to find me.
Cool. Well, you can find Raised Rowdy on Instagram at Raised Rowdy, and then you can check out the website and the merch store at raisedrowdy.com, and you'll see all our different podcasts, including Dawson and Caleb's. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see y'all next episode.
See y'all.